Good day, Davao de Oro, and to all Z-eskwela listeners, especially to the grade 12 CSS students who are listening to us right now, on their radios at home, and joining with us with our Facebook Live. I am your teacher presenter, ARGIE BELANDRES, from Camanlangan National High School. Good day, CSS Senior High School students. We are on air at 88.5 Z Radio. How are you doing today? Wow, you are all doing great. That's good to know. Join me as we will be together for 1 hour. So ready yourself for today's radio-based instruction. Alright, please find a suitable area and make yourself comfortable. Before we begin with our new topic, let us first have a quick review of the previous lesson. In our previous lesson, you have learned how to configure a domain network. Now, let us review about the basic theory of a domain network. A domain network is a centralized network which controls and limits the function of another computer. It is one of the most secure network-based management systems. Organizational units. Organizational units are containers that can hold any other type of object to form a hierarchy. Organizational units are used to organize objects into logical groupings. Active Directory Domain Services, or ADDS, stores information about users, computers, and other devices on the network in a security border known as a domain. Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, or the DHCP server, enables user to assign IP addresses to computers and other devices that are enabled as DHCP clients on the network. We have what we call the DNS server. It resolves host names to Internet Protocol addresses in both IP address version 4 and IP address version 6. And so we have the file services. Provides technologies for storage management. Active Directory, or the AD, is used to perform confirmation and permission of users to access resources. Transmission Control Protocol, or the TCP, ensures data in the correct order, delivery of data, and follows an arrangement of connection, and then terminates that connection after transfer is complete. It also adds reliability of service. And so we have the ports. Port 21, Port 25, and Port 80. Port 21 is for File Transfer Protocol. Port 25, it is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Port 80, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. We have the User Datagram Protocol, typically used for broadcast communication in which data packets are sent into multiple computers. Virtual Private Networks facilitates connections across point-to-point network. A VPN client computer can access resources on the VPN server network as if it is present locally. Gateway. Gateway represent where the direct traffic can match or matches the network and NetWest. And so we have the sharing option. We have the full control, the modify, the read and execute, and we have the read and write. When you say full control in a sharing option, a user can change, move, add, and delete files. It can also change permission settings. And so we have the modify. It can view and modify files only. Read and execute. Can execute files including script. Read. User can view file. So we have the write. Write means user can write to a file. And so we have the types of IP address or the types of IP addresses. Class A. The first octet signifies the network address, and the last 3 octets are the host portion. Class B IP address, first 2 octets represent the network address, and the last 2 octets are the host. We have the Class B IP address. The first octet is between 128 to 191. Class B. The first 3 octet represents the network, and the last octet is the host portion. In between 192 to 223 in a Class C IP address. Class D is used for multicast ranging from 224 to 239. We have folder redirection. It enables user and administrators to direct the path of a network to a new location, either in manual or using the group policy management. In a folder redirection, user can interact with files in the redirected folder as if it is still working on the physical local drive. So, that concludes our review. So, our discussion today will focus on maintaining and repairing computer systems and networks of Lesson 11 of Computer Systems Servicing. We have the topic, planning and preparing for maintenance and repair. We have the lesson objectives, to understand the system maintenance tips and techniques, and determine the basic troubleshooting technique. So, let's discuss. First in line, we have occupational health and safety procedures in servicing the system unit. So before you start disassembling your computer, always remember the following steps. So we have read and follow instruction in the manual carefully. Please do not work alone so that there's someone who can take care of you in case of accident or emergency. And always power off and unplug the computer before working on it. Take off any metal objects in your arms or in your fingers, such as the bracelets, rings, or watches. And always ground yourself or discharge yourself before touching any parts of the system unit. Be careful with the tools that may cause short circuit, such as the screwdriver or the Phillips screwdriver. Handle all parts with care. If a component does not come out easily, do not use excessive force. Be sure you're standing in a dry place and use a rubber shoes or use any anti-static mat. Make sure that the pins are properly aligned when connecting to a cable connector. Take away any liquid such as mineral water or soft drinks near your working area or near your computer. Personal protective equipment is correctly used in accordance with OHS procedures and practice. Hazard or risk in the workplace under corresponding indicators are identified to minimize or eliminate risk to co-workers, workplace, and environment. Take necessary precautions to protect the components of the computer from damages caused by electrostatic discharge, and hold the component's edge and do not touch the IC. Those are the steps in preparing or disassembling your system unit. So let's talk about the motherboard. How do we choose the best and the correct motherboard? So we have the motherboard selection criteria. The following list includes some of the most important criteria to consider when selecting a motherboard. We have number 1, the motherboard chipset. The motherboard chipset is one of the backbone of a system, and it affects and influences virtually every other component in the system. So before buying, compare the features of the available chipsets to ensure that the board will do what you want. For example, some chipset include support for faster memory, or for the PCI, for the SATA up to 6 GB drives, and optional RAID capabilities. Number 2, the processor socket. Stay tuned and we will be right back.
The ARGIE Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by Nueda Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicons Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix Corvada Tagum Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Mays Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
We're back, learners. So let's talk about the motherboard. How do we choose the best and the correct motherboard? So we have the motherboard selection criteria. The following list includes some of the most important criteria to consider when selecting a motherboard. Number 2, the processor socket. So when selecting a motherboard, it is very important to select the processor socket or to determine the processor socket. The processor socket of the motherboard dictates about the processor model you will be able to install. In most cases, you have a processor in mind, so choose a motherboard with a socket that supports the processor you want to use. Check the motherboard specification for what a specific processor are supported in the given motherboard. So when we buy a computer, it is very important to determine the compatibility between the motherboard and the processor. So we have the number 3. So let's talk about the memory. The type and the amount of memory compatible with the system depends on the motherboard you choose. So most motherboard today support either DDR2 or DDR3 memory in either single, dual, or triple channel operation. The number of memory sockets supported speeds, and other variables also depends on the motherboard. So check the board specification to see exactly what is supported. Next, in choosing a motherboard, it is important to determine the form factor. So what is a form factor? The form factor indicates the size and shapes of the board and must be compatible with the chassis or case and the power supply. For the maximum flexibility, performance, reliability, and ease of use, motherboard based on the ATX and micro ATX form factors are recommended. So what are the recommended form factors of the motherboard? Those are the ATX and the micro ATX. Larger form factors such as ATX offer more slots and rooms for additional integrated components and features. Smaller variation on ATX are also available. But in the end, you need to be sure that the motherboard is compatible with the case and the power supply you have chosen. We have number 5. The current system offers 1 to 5 or more PCI or PCIe slots, depending on the form factor. So again, the slot depends on the size and the shapes of your motherboard. Some boards have more than one PCIe for video card slot, which you may want if you're running multiple video card in an SLI or Crossfire X arrangement. Make sure that the board you choose have the number of types of slot you require. So keep in mind that PCI is fading away in the latest motherboards. So if you want to use existing PCI cards, make sure to choose a motherboard that has enough PCI slot or has integrated ports that replaces the functionality of your PCI cards. And so we have the onboard ATA or the onboard AT interface. All motherboards on the market have included onboard serial and parallel ATA interface for some time now, but not all are equal. Look for boards that include at least 4 to 6 SATA connectors, which support for 6 gigabits per second, or the 6 Gbps, as well as optional RAID functionality. 7. Other built-in interfaces. Ideally, a motherboard should contain as many as built-in standard controller and interfaces as possible. Most boards feature integrated USB, sound, and LAN. Look for those offering Gigabit Ethernet, whereas others also have integrated video, Firewire, eSATA, dual LAN adapter, and more. Documentation. Good technical documentation is important. Documents should be easy to download from the manufacturer's site and should include the information on any and all jumpers and switches found on the board. Number 9. Technical support. Good online technical support goes beyond documentation. It includes easy downloadable driver and BIOS updates, facts, updated table of processor, and memory compatibility. So those are the necessary components when choosing a correct motherboard. Again, if you wanted to buy a motherboard, you have to remember first the motherboard chipset, followed by the processor socket or the memory slot, its form factor, the bus slots, and onboard 80 interfaces. And of course, the built-in interface. Next, we have the term ESD. So what is an ESD in a computer term? ESD is a small amount of electricity that can destroy small parts of your computer. So if we have ESD, we have anti-static device. Devices designed to protect the computer from any static electricity. We have example of anti-static device is the anti-static wrist strap, the anti-static mat, the anti-static bag, and the anti-static spray. We have the term power surge protectors. Devices that designed to protect the computer from sudden power surges from intermittent power source. Example of this, we have the AVR or the automatic voltage regulator and the UPS. So we have periodic maintenance scheme. So how do we maintain our computer system? Could be we have a daily schedule, a weekly schedule, a monthly schedule, and a yearly schedule. So we have the example on a daily basis of maintaining our computer system. We have first, on a daily basis, you can check your computer for possible virus attacks. Next, do an incremental backup for your files for each date. And if there's anything that crashes from your computer, always restart and try to check and repair your system. On a weekly basis, you can scan your computer against viruses using your antivirus. Next, a complete backup of your file. And always update your operating system. On a monthly basis, you can clean your PC or your laptop inside and out. And always defrag your hard drive to speed up its operation. On a yearly basis, you can check your programs, clean up unused programs, perform a reformat your hard drive, and reinstall the operating system if possible. And make a full diagnostic check on your hardware and software. So how do we protect our computer in a cyberspace? So how do we safeguard our computer against malware? What is a malware? Malware is a type of software that is designed to damage your computer or gain unauthorized access to your personal information. A virus includes a worm, a Trojan horse, and a spyware. Most malware is distributed over the internet and is often bundled with other software. The best way to guard against malware is to install antivirus software. Next, it is important to stay smart when browsing the web or using your email. If a website or email attachment looks suspicious, trust your instinct. Keep it in mind that your antivirus program may not catch everything. So how do we back up our computer? Imagine what would happen if your computer suddenly stopped working. Luckily, you can prevent this by creating a backup copies of your files, or in an external drive, or an online backup service. So remember, an external hard drive. So you can purchase an external hard drive and copy all the information in your computer that is considered as backup. The initial backup could take several hours. So you will need to select a period of time when you do not need to access your computer. Running the backup overnight usually works best. One drawback of the external hard drive is that it can be lost, damaged, or stolen, just like your computer. This is why it is important to keep your drive in a secure location when not in use. And so we have the online backup. You can back up your files in an online system or format like OZ, Carbonate, or Box. Or you can use your Google Drive. This service will back up your file in a cloud, which means you will be able to recover them from any computer with an internet connection. The amount of storage provided by the site varies, so you will need to pay a fee for adequate storage space. One drawback of an online backup services is that the initial backup can be slow and may even take days to upload. And so we have the other maintenance techniques. To keep your computer running smoothly, it is important to keep your files and folder uncluttered. Cluttered or unorganized folders make it more difficult to find the files you need. Additionally, unwanted files can be eventually fill up your drives. Here are the few things you can do to delete unwanted files and improve your computer's performance. We have first, delete files. If you have any unwanted files, you can delete them manually. To do this, drag them to the recycle bin or trash bin. Then empty it, permanently delete the files, or simply right-click the file and delete it. Next, run a disk defragmenter. Windows includes a disk defragmenter program in the control panel. If your computer is running slow, running disk defragmenter can help to speed up the process. We have a disk cleanup. Windows also include a disk cleanup, a program in a control panel. It scans your computer for temporary files and other files that can be deleted. You can then delete the files to free up space in your hard drive. And so we have the basic troubleshooting techniques. So how do we troubleshoot the computer? Do you know what to do if your screen goes blank? Whenever you have a problem with your computer, don't panic. There are many basic troubleshooting techniques you can use to fix issues like this. We'll show you some simple tips or things to try when troubleshooting, as well as how to solve common problems you may encounter. There are many different things that could cause a problem with your computer. So no matter what causing the issue, troubleshooting will always be a process of trial and error. Again, troubleshooting will always be a process of trial and error. In some cases, you may need to use several different approaches before you can find a solution. First, write down your steps. Once you start troubleshooting, you may want to write down each step you take. This way, you will be able to remember exactly what you've done and can avoid repeating the same mistakes. If you end up asking other people for help, it will be much easier if they know exactly what you've tried already. So again, write down the process. Next, take notes about the error messages. If your computer gives you an error message, be sure to write down as much information as possible. You may be able to use this information later to find out if other people are having the same error. Stay tuned and we will be right back.
The Radyo Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by Nueda Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicon's Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix Corvada Tagum Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Mays Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
We're back, learners. Take notes about the error messages. If your computer gives you an error message, be sure to write down as much information as possible. You may be able to use this information later to find out if other people are having the same error. Next, always check the cables. If you have a problem with specific piece of computer hardware, such as board keyboard, an easy first step is to check all related cables to make sure they are properly connected. Next, restart the computer. When all else fails, restart the computer is a good thing to try. This can solve a lot of basic issues you may experience with your computer. Using the process of elimination. If you're having an issue with your computer, you may be able to find out what's wrong using the process of elimination. This means you'll make a list of things that could be causing the problem and then test them out one by one to eliminate them. Once you've identified the source of your computer issue, it will be easier for you to find the solution. We'll talk about other common computer problems and some ways to solve them. Problem number 1. Power button is not functioning. So solution: if your computer does not start, begin by checking the power cord to confirm that it's plugged in securely into the back of your computer case and to the power outlet. Solution number 2, if it is plugged into the outlet, make sure it is a working outlet. To check your outlet, you can plug in another electrical device such as a lamp or a charger. Next, solution number 3, if the computer is plugged in into the power source, verify that it is turned on. You can also plug a lamp or other device into a surge protector to verify if it is working properly. Now let us check your understanding. We will have a formative assessment. Direction: write T if the statement is true and F if the statement is false. Number 1, planning and preparing systematic maintenance procedure will help you save time, money, and frustration. Again, planning and preparing systematic maintenance procedure will save time, money, and frustration. Number 2, you cannot get a computer virus if you install antivirus software. Again, you cannot get a computer virus if you install antivirus software. 3. Antivirus prevents unauthorized access of personal computer information. 4. Malware is any type of software that is designed to damage your computer. 5. The motherboard chipset is the backbone of a system, and it affects and influences virtually every other component in the system. 5. The motherboard chipset is the backbone of a system, and it affects and influences virtually every other component in the system. Answer key. Number 1 is letter T. 2 is letter F. 3, letter T. 4, letter T. 5, letter T. Who among you got perfect? Very good! How about those students who got low passing score? Good! Nothing to worry about. We have still plenty of quizzes in the next preceding topics. Once again, congratulations! You can put your comments, suggestions, and questions on our Facebook page. See you in the next session. I am teacher ARGIE Belandres from Camanlangan National High School for Class on the Air in grade 12 CSS and C2. Bye-bye!
Nohara O. Pinute, Dr. Grace D. Pontillas, Dr. Renato N. Pakpakin, Dr. Andy P. Cabodok, Juanito Lapiceros, Engineer Norberto S. Manlangit, Ryan Villanueva, Jomar M. Dumupoy, Bob Daylan S. Milabat, Medard D. Api, and Paz Eugenia Villusino. Technical Working Committee, Production and Communications, Lorely E. Quijano, Given G. Hinampas, Judiland T. Yu, Donna D. T. Bolifer, Mary Rose N. Resma, Riwen C. Manuel, Irene Lea C. Manguhon, and Bessie Aya N. Banyes. Social Media and Packaging Team, Christian Anhara L. Martesio, William R. Ranara, Joan T. Iscoton, Roberto S. Acusar Jr., May B. Istaniol, Richard H. Arellano, Ralph A. Tabanyag, Angelo C. Gutierrez Jr., Jade Karen R. Arais, Eliza May Garsuta, Sedi S. Caballero, and Jane S. Caballero. Sa Radyo Z-eskwela, siguradong masaya. Right and only here at Z Radio 88.5, ang istasyong siguradong lingaw, siguradong kuyaw.